Hello everyone, it's Vivi and welcome back. One thing to quickly note, the video will solely focus on the trilogy, meaning games 1, 2, and 3. For those who got into the series via the remakes, we're basically looking at the Reignited trilogy. Games such as Skylanders or the Legend series will not be taken into account. One thing the Reignited trilogy made more obvious, at least looking at the first game from a visual perspective, dragons. While some of them seem to channel magic, artists such as Kole and Cady-Lee brought this complete magical flair to these dragons. Now from a lore perspective, the third game introduced us to the Forgotten Realms. Dragons used to inhabit these worlds, until they were all banished by the sorceress. According to Bianca, former apprentice of the sorceress, she explained that magic started to vanish in the Forgotten Realms, it being a direct result of dragons no longer inhabiting these realms. Bianca was tricked by the sorceress. She thought she was stealing those dragon eggs to restore the magic that was lost. She then realized that stealing those dragon eggs were for the sorceress's own personal gain, immortality. Her plan was to use their wings to create a spell, one she hoped would let her live forever. She even utilized magic using a dragon egg directly attached to her scepter. What we can understand from this, dragons are born with magic, and some seem to portray that more than others as they grew older. Another magical category would be the Fairies. According to Spyro 3's manual, every 12 years the Dragon Kingdom celebrates its most important event, the Year of the Dragon Festival. Fairies deliver a new batch of dragon eggs and dragons come from all around to dance and feast until everyone drops from exhaustion. First question that comes to mind are female dragons. Why are they absent and why are they hiding, or where are they hiding? These eggs certainly come from somewhere, and it appears the fairies were entrusted to bring these eggs to the dragon realms every year of the dragon. One reason which could justify the absence of female dragons? Well, it could be due to sustainment. With the females in hiding, magic can remain sustainable. If female dragons were put in danger, well, that would certainly affect the birth of new dragons. From an actual gameplay perspective, fairies play multiple roles. We have the Save Fairy after rescuing the dragons from their crystal stasis, Rescue Fairies after falling, Flame Fairies. With a kiss, they grant Spyro Super Flame. Whirlwind Fairies, as well as ones which point Spyro in the right direction. Looking at Avalar in Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage, we got introduced to Zoe. Zoe gives Spyro helpful tips and acts as a checkpoint. The idea remains the same in the third game. Zoe kept her role, and Spyro would meet other fairies throughout his adventure. One fairy, for example, was named Gabriel. She would grant Spyro Ice Breath in Frozen Altars. In terms of collectibles, we're familiar with gems, orbs, and talismans. Gems act as the game's currency, but from a lore perspective, at least looking at the first game, they do have a certain magical property, and this leads us to none other than Nasty Nork. When he was banished to the junkyard by the dragons, he tried looking for a spell. The first game's manual states, Nasty began to fool around with magic spells. After a while, he hit on two he wanted, a giant spell to trap all dragons in crystal, and a potion to animate those radiant gems and turn them into Nork soldiers. Looking at Spyro 2's Talismans, these acted as gateways to boss fights. Now in Elora's words, these talismans are all
magical.
As for entering certain levels or areas, like speedways, Adore and Autumn Flames for example, the Ripto boss fight, Ripto's the exception here in Winter Tundra. Usually we need talismans for bosses. In this case we needed orbs. To enter these areas, we collect what we call orbs, which Hunter seemed to have on him all this time and made us go through these tasks. These special spherical objects seem to power up the professor's super portal, along with a power crystal acting as a boost. The portals themselves do seem to rely on magic. Now, how are these orbs magical, you might ask? Well, when facing Ripto, orbs would help Spyro gain abilities, not to mention the power crystal, which Ripto stole from us and gave power to his scepter. And the thing about crystals, jewels, or treasures, whatever term you're used to, I mean looking at the first game, gems were called treasures and jewels. It's as if one harnesses magic from these crystals and all. Nasty Staff, for example. And let's not forget about these orbs left behind when defeating Norks in the first game. These spheres appear after you've already collected the jewels. They drop. And what happens when we collect 20? You get an extra life. You see the correlation here? You get life from these orbs. Orbs harnessed from jewels. Jewels which in turn were used to conjure a spell. Give literal life to them as Norks. What's also interesting to note here is the similarity in shape when looking at the orbs from Avalar. So, about portals. The portals in Spyro's universe all seem to take us to different worlds, or realms, with different historical elements, almost as if we're time traveling. Seeing as how dragons are considered magical creatures, their world, aka the Dragon Realms, is what powers up these portals simply. Another clear indicator of this is the need to find dragon eggs in the third game. Enough dragon eggs would power up the portals. The outlier in this situation would be the super portal. The professor's super portal technology would allow one to travel to whichever realm given the right coordinates. Something you've probably wondered, where does magic actually originate from? Are we looking at harnessing magic from crystals? Are we looking at fairies? Dragons seem to be born with magic. From where is magic derived in Spyro's universe? Looking at Avalar, their world already has the presence of magic without dragons in Avalar. What Avalar does have already are fairies, a magical guidebook. One detail in Reignited is the fairy in that red dress. Looks like our safe fairy from Dragon Realms, right? If that's anything to go by, then perhaps we believe that fairies travel to different worlds outside of the Dragon Realms. Whether or not they utilize portals is unknown. But I'd like to think so. If they didn't use portals, that would mean they would travel by air, using their wings throughout. If the fairies had enough stamina for that, then dragons, out of all creatures, would have discovered Avalar eventually, wouldn't they? The absence of dragons in Avalar could indicate that their world is just too far off course. On a complete different plane of existence, call it. Let's not forget that some portals in Avalar required orbs to give them enough power. That extra power was perhaps needed to reach this other distant world, aka in this case, the Dragon Realms. With that said, what do you find interesting about the magic in Spyro's universe? Is there anything you can't wrap your head around, perhaps? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and as always, thank you for watching. Like always, a massive thanks to my Patreon supporters, it really does help, and I appreciate it. Thank you viewers for always tuning in, and yeah, I've been Vivi, and until next time.